We sit down with a friend and former roommate of the suspected shooter in the UnitedHealthcare CEO murder. RJ Martin is now giving us a different perspective on Luigi Mangione. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. So as you know, we have been following all aspects of the UnitedHealthcare CEO shooting, the killing of Brian Thompson. And now, 26-year-old Luigi Mangione has been arrested out in Pennsylvania. He's being held on gun charges, but he is now also charged in New York with murder and other offenses in connection to the killing of Brian Thompson. He'll ultimately have to be extradited. He'll be indicted by a grand jury. But this is a bizarre case, considering, as we discussed on a previous sidebar, everything we know about Luigi Mangione. This is a guy who came from a great family, a very well-respected family in Maryland. He is an Ivy League graduate, highly intelligent, had the world at his fingertips. But there was reporting that he began to withdraw from his family and friends, that he allegedly started posting or reposting online extreme beliefs. A manifesto or these writings were found on his person that were also quite odd. This happened when he was arrested. And this was all after a back surgery that he had, a very painful back surgery. And you have to wonder, did that play a factor in what he's accused of doing right now? So the bottom line is we are all left to wonder, why would this guy that had everything allegedly murder the head of a health insurance company in New York City out of nowhere? Well, we had the chance to sit down with RJ Martin. Now, RJ had lived with Luigi Mangione at one point in time, considered him a friend, and I want you to hear what he has to say because we're trying to understand more about this suspected shooter. Take a listen. First of all, thank you so much for coming here on Sidebar. I know this is not an easy time, probably a very confusing time to say the least. So first of all, let me just get your reaction to what has been the last 48 hours. How you doing?
It's been utterly shocking and kind of eviscerating emotionally. It's unimaginable that the person that I was friends with and knew and considered a close friend would have murdered someone. So it's been a really tough 24 hours for me. I just found out about 24 hours ago.
How did you find out? When the picture was posted, or was there when they were circulating the images, the surveillance images, and you couldn't really see exactly who the person was, but they were unmasked? Did something hint to you? You said, wait a minute, that he looks familiar? Or was it when it was officially the arrest and the identity of Luigi that it clicked?
I don't follow a lot of media, and I'm with my fiance right now on vacation. And I found out when my phone was blowing up from calls from reporters. So a New York Magazine reporter told me, and it was devastating. I was at lunch and it seemed unmanageable. I had to ask him, are you sure that couldn't be Luigi? And then of course, I confirmed with some images that the person they had arrested was Luigi. So yeah, I found out from a call.
Wow, I'm sorry. That's not the way to find something like this out. When you talk to us a little bit more about your friendship with Luigi Mangione, what was that like? How did you meet him? How long did you know him for? Talk to us about that.
So I created a co-living space in Honolulu during COVID. And he applied to be a member. We have an application process and an interview. So when he originally applied, I interviewed him to make sure that he was a good fit for our community. We like to say we're a community of givers. We leave things better than we found them. We look for, good people that do community service, that are there for each other, and he fit the bill. So I had that first conversation with him. He was excited to move to Hawaii. He wanted to focus on his health. And he was looking to make new friends. So he was an ideal member for us. And, right away, easy to get along with. He's friendly, but he's not overly social. He's a great listener. He's thoughtful. He's one of those people that's positive. Always look forward to spending time with him. He and I really bonded over workouts, whether we'd go to the gym, yoga class, play volleyball, just an active lifestyle.
By the way, as we continue to cover this story, I have to thank Morgan & Morgan, our sponsor, for supporting these episodes. And look, here's the deal. If you're injured, you got to know what your legal rights are and whether you can be compensated. That's where Morgan & Morgan comes in. They have an incredible track record of multi-million-dollar verdicts and settlements in the past few months. I'm talking $12 million in Florida and $26 million in Philadelphia. These are higher than the highest insurance offers in these cases. There's no upfront fee. They only get paid if you get paid. The whole process can be done right from your smartphone. So if you're injured, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/LC Sidebar. Did he ever say anything about the healthcare industry? I know we're going to talk a little bit more about the surgery that he had, but did he ever mention anything, let alone about Brian Thompson? Did he ever mention anything about the healthcare industry?
Nothing that stands out. He was one of the leaders in putting together, we called it Surf Book, a book club at our co-living space. And we read about a lot of different kind of like social topics. And, we talked a lot about systems and whether it's governmental or private institutions that are failing people, how they have structural flaws that incentivize the wrong things. But I don't remember healthcare or the health industry, insurance companies standing out. I'm sure we covered it, but definitely no animosity in his voice. Definitely, at that point in time, I don't recall him ever being upset about the things we talked about. It was very much more intellectual and cerebral, talking about these issues and how hopefully we can have a positive impact.
And when was the last time you saw him?
Gosh, it's probably about a year ago. I knew he had to go home back to the East Coast for a surgery. So I checked in with him maybe about a year ago, less than a year ago, asking how the surgery went. And we had some text communications. He sent me some images of his x-rays post-surgery. And it's those kinds of images, I think some of them are already out there, that just make you cringe. You look at 3-4 inch screws into somebody's spine. And, I just asked him, how's the recovery going? And he said, we got to talk about it in person, kind of thing. So just, it kind of breaks your heart, when your friends are going through something like that, the pain.
Do you know what caused that? How he got that?
My understanding is it was either an injury or some sort of pre-existing condition that he'd had before he moved to Hawaii, and that his spine had a misalignment, like forward and back. And I think he'd showed me the x-rays of that too. So his nervous cord was being pressed, and I believe his discs. It was one of those interesting injuries where, one day he could perhaps be athletic and do something, and then the next day just immobile and stuck in bed. Which, thank God he had healthy days, right?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. We just did a whole episode on this about how there was reports that he had kind of withdrawn from people. His family might have been looking for him. Do you know anything about that in terms of, did you lose contact with him? Were you trying to reach out to him? Do you know anything more about that?
Yeah, after we spoke about the surgery and his recovery via text, I followed up, I think it was like March, April, May, each month, just a text message checking in saying, hey bro, how you doing? What's going on? And didn't hear from him. So the last, communication that I had from him was this spring, excuse me. And I didn't take it as odd that he wasn't following up. I just assumed maybe he had permanently moved back to the East Coast. Maybe he'd started a new job. I just knew that when we were back in the same location, the same sphere, we'd meet up, our friendship, we'd go to the park and do a workout, or, do something fun we enjoy doing together, when he was back on Oahu.
Was there anything from his social media activity in the past few months, maybe the past year, that concerned you?
I didn't notice anything. I'm not following a lot of social media regularly, so I'm actually not aware of any of his posts. Probably when he moved in, I checked on his social media just to make sure that he had a normal life, was doing, normal things, but I'm totally unaware of any of his social media. I'm unfortunately, as a friend, you feel bad that I'm unaware of the suffering he went through or the transformation, that happened in the last 6 months. I unfortunately, I can't, I know nothing about it.
Well, let me just say this before we go on. I've speak to a lot of people who are in a very similar position, and they're shocked and they blame themselves. You cannot blame yourself. People, it's very hard to predict what people do. And as well as you know somebody, you just don't. And there's nothing that you could have done to, if he really did do this, there's nothing you could have done to prevent this. So I just want you to know that from somebody who speaks to a lot of people in this position. This is not your fault. We're still trying to piece together exactly what happened, but just want to make that clear. What's interesting about this is while you were away, before he was identified, we were all trying to figure out, was this a trained killer who was able to operate this weapon in New York City? And we were all wondering, was this a professional? And the fact that Luigi has been identified, do you look at that and you say, where did he learn any of this? Or was there something that he told you, yeah, I know how to use a gun, yeah, any kind of training, anything like that, that he indicated to you?
That's even more shocking. He never once mentioned guns or violence. He wasn't even into MMA. Wasn't really a big watcher of sports even. From all I believe he had no prior knowledge in that field. And I think what makes this really hard is that, he was one of the smartest, one of the most compassionate, one of the most present people I knew, such a great listener, had natural, leadership by leading by example, and because people knew he was genuine. And it's, I think part of what's so heartbreaking is knowing the potential he had, and to know that, now that's lost. He really had everything going for him. People loved him. He had a great, well-paying job. He was one of those people that I think we would look towards to help make and affect change in the right direction to help others. So I think that's part of what makes this so heartbreaking and so difficult to process. He really was among the best and the brightest that we have in his generation.
When you see the photos of him now after his arrest, does he look different than the last time you saw him?
I've kind of made a deliberate choice to not process or engage in any of the media. So I haven't seen any of the photos. I haven't really read any of the articles. Um,
I should tell you, there is a disturbing trend that's happening online where people are supportive of the shooting of Brian Thompson. And now that Luigi has been identified, there's a lot of people who are supporting him, not necessarily thinking he didn't do it, but saying that if he did do it, he was justified in doing that. And I'm just curious, as somebody who's friends with Luigi, to have that, to see that people are supporting him, and not saying that he didn't do it, but supporting what he allegedly did. I was just curious your perspective on that.
Assassination is violence is never the way. We don't storm the Capitol and we don't murder CEOs. That's completely unacceptable. I think what perhaps is happening is, I think many people struggle with the health insurance industry has struck a chord. I feel like we probably all know somebody who's had their life transformed for struggles with the industry, and perhaps that is what's striking a chord with the country right now.
Do you have any idea if he did this, why he would have done this?
I personally don't. It's incomprehensible that the person I knew and was friends with could assassinate somebody. And I've kind of deliberately chosen to not delve into the rationale, or I heard he wrote a manifesto, but I've deliberately chosen to not engage in any of that for the time being. It's been been a lot to process. And right now I'm just trying to kind of unpack and be with the emotions that I feel. And I think that would maybe be overwhelming for me right now.
If you had the opportunity to speak to him, would you want to? And if so, what do you think you would say to him?
I would like him to know that there's countless people that, that continue to love and respect him, and that he has many, many friends, and I assume his family also. And that just that there are people that love and care about him. And I don't know, kind of at a loss for words.
No, I understand. Have you had a chance to speak with his family? Did you know his family at all? Did you know anybody from his inner circle? Has anybody reached out to you?
No, outside of seeing he was, going home for the holidays or going home for this or that, he never shared with me any details about his family or his family life. But it wasn't negative, so it wasn't there was no negative, there was no positive. It was just seemed like a very normal family life that wasn't, necessarily something you needed to talk about. But no, I haven't had any contact with his family, but I would, like them to know that I'm here for them if they need support in any way.
Yeah, and look, they may need that in light of what's been going on. I know you might not be able to tell us, but has anybody from law enforcement reached out to you as part of this investigation?
No, not yet. I'm also traveling internationally right now. I'm at Surf Break's second location in Mexico. So I'm not on normal, I'm just doing everything on WhatsApp. So I'm not aware.
I'm sorry this is your vacation. I'm sorry this happened, in general, but especially during your vacation. Before I let you go, and I know you've been so kind with your time, what would you like people to know as we're trying to get a 360-degree picture of this case? What would you like people to know?
Yeah, I think, people should zoom out and realize that this was a young, thoughtful man who had everything really going for him, and was poised to be a great leader in the coming years. And that for those of us that knew him and cared about him and were close with him, that the assassination is unthinkable, and it's so incompatible with the person that we were close to and cared about so deeply.
Listen, RJ, I appreciate you taking the time. Again, I know this is not easy. I hope you enjoy the rest of your time away. But we will continue to follow it. I really appreciate you speaking to this, giving everybody a different perspective of Luigi Mangione as we're all trying to process this ourselves, what happened. But listen, RJ Martin, thank you so much, and really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.